Research Den brings UAFS researchers out of the lab and into conversation with curious community members like you. No jargon, no intimidation, just fascinating discoveries happening right here in Fort Smith, shared by the passionate researchers behind the work. Prepare to be surprised by what's being discovered in your own backyard. In this installment of Research Den, Dr. Stephen Husarik, professor of Humanities and Music History, observes that UAFS students have tackled everything from documenting Fort Smith's new theater for the National Register to building a China travelogue and contributing to Beethoven research in Europe, proving that crowdsourcing turns overwhelming projects into collaborative wins. But now that AI can handle the grunt work, he's asking, what's the irreplaceable human magic that happens when students learn by researching together?
Welcome to the Research Den this evening. And I'm going to talk to you about several research projects I worked on, not one. I'd like to survey some projects because they've brought up something to my mind I want to think about related to artificial intelligence. So this is called How Crowdsourcing Sparks Student Interest in Research. And it isn't, as I say, not really a formal research paper. The first crowdsourcing project I developed came out of an assignment I was given here at the college. I was asked to develop a history of the new theater in downtown Fort Smith so that its owners could receive funding from the federal government. They wanted to place it on the National Register of Historic Places. However, no history, no money. So I was to create the history. The idea for the new theater originated from a local businessman, George Sparks, who had been impressed by the New Amsterdam Theater in New York and decided to bring a similar experience to Fort Smith. The New Amsterdam Theater had the latest theatrical technology and offered some of the best stage productions in New York. Today it would be a little like going to the Sphere in Las Vegas and wanting to bring back a similar theater to your hometown. Now, because street footage in New York City is heavily taxed, architects placed the New Amsterdam Theater on 43rd Street with a narrow entrance. And similarly, in Fort Smith, architects positioned the new theater on 10th Street in the same manner as the New Amsterdam. The theater sported a fancy entrance. Although people spoke of it with almost iconic reverence, I knew nothing about this theater as an outsider from Chicago, and I wondered how I could possibly write about it. I realized that extensive research would be required to understand its history and significance. So I went to the old Fort Smith Public Library to investigate what I could find out about all of this theater through the Southwest Times record. Hundreds of newspapers were available on microfilm, but I knew I could never go through so many of them on my own. So I decided to divide up all of the Southwest Times articles on microfilm and had several hundred humanities students go through 10 newspapers each at the library and write down any articles that they found on the new theater between the years 1911 and 1945. You can see their work in this catalog where I later highlighted important articles after going through hundreds of them myself. It was an enormous task that took 2 semesters. Well, the original Amsterdam auditorium seated 1,200 people and boasted cantilevered balconies over the main floor. You can get an idea of what it looked like from this restored view of the Amsterdam Theater in New York City today. The original colors included then popular pink and green. And this is what the Amsterdam lobby looked like, and what the new theater lobby looked like as well. And here are some of the box seats, also painted in ivory with gold gilding. In the Fort Smith New Theater, more than 1,000 lights helped audience members imagine they were in an equally comfortable environment at any time they went in there. So the aisle footlights changed from red in the winter to green in the summer so that people would have the illusion that the temperature was either warmer or cooler than it really was. The new theater proudly displayed a firewall curtain with the word asbestos printed on it. And the newspaper said, quote, "In the first place, there's an absolute firewall between stage and auditorium, with the stage opening covered with an asbestos curtain tested to fire underwriters' specifications," unquote. So medical research would later show that asbestos was a dangerous material, and in effect, if you didn't die from fire, you probably would die from mesothelioma later in life. By the time I was done, I learned these and other surprising facts and just about everything else you would want to know about the new theater. The history was complete, and the new owner, Mr. Griffin, could now proceed to the next level with his development project. Eventually, I wrote an article on all of this and received an award from the Arkansas Historical Society. But the importance of the project, I believe, lies in the participation of over 200 enthusiastic students who crowdsourced this hometown restoration project, even before the word crowdsource had been invented in 2007. Excuse me. Now, I'm a well-known world traveler in my own circle. So it was logical that when I was asked to present a lecture on Beethoven in Beijing, China, a few years later, that I would combine it with a trip around that country. I decided to have my 2 online summer humanities courses crowdsource a commentary for a giant PowerPoint entertainment at the end of the summer. I traveled all over China taking pictures, while students back home provided commentary for each slide that I emailed to them. And this is the path of my journey. Do you think that China is backwards or full of peasant farmers picking rice and out in the farmland? Well, forget it. That's all gone. China has at least 8 major cities the size of New York, and they're all brand new. This is a CCTV building in Beijing, one of the giant new buildings owned by the government where broadcasting takes place. And not far away is the giant postmodern Olympic torch building that houses offices of the Olympic Games at that time, in the shape of a flame. I think a real architectural tour de force. Well, obviously, the most famous architectural icon in Beijing is the Forbidden City, a giant multi-acre complex where emperors lived for centuries. It takes at least 2 days to see this monument properly. And of course, I keep hitting that button, you don't go to China without seeing the Great Wall. Chairman Mao said that you're only a hero after you have climbed the Great Wall. So I climbed, and I received my official hero card as proof that I made it to the top. Across town, every year the emperor blessed the crops at the Temple of Heaven. Today, many young people come there to have their wedding photos taken. On the other side of town, during the summer, the emperor would go to the Summer Palace, and on this hilltop is the Temple of Heavenly Peace. Up there, I met an elderly couple on a pilgrimage to this Buddhist temple who wanted to take their picture with me. So I decided to get a picture of them with me as well. Their daughter in the background is laughing joyously. I hopped on a plane and flew out to Dunhuang in the Gobi Desert, where the first Great Wall exists. Did you know that there are several Great Walls? You can recognize the roots of Chinese culture out in the desert. While I was there, I communicated with UAFS Director of Online Instruction, Kathy Wright, by Skype, and with my students using TalkBox and the traditional Blackboard learning systems. Well, the trip continued. I went to Xi'an, the first imperial city of China, commissioned by Emperor Qin Shi Huang, who also commissioned the iconic terracotta warriors. Farmer Yang, one of the discoverers of the site, happened to be there when I visited, and he was signing his book. The archaeologists were there excavating as well, and their work will continue for many decades to come. From there, I jetted on a train at 350 miles an hour to my next stop, Shanghai. Shanghai is not a third world country by any means, with the then tallest building in the world. And what would you expect to see in a city of 37 million people? Traffic jams everywhere. All this travel is very exhausting, believe me. On the final leg of our journey, we sailed to Guilin, and this famous view appears on the $20 Chinese bill. I was offered a very expensive drink of fire water from this bottle, and it's said to be an aphrodisiac. I said, could you put that on the table, please? When I looked at it more closely, it contains alcohol mixed with snake venom. I said, no thanks. Finally, we arrived in Hong Kong, and once again, we were surprised by the enormous size and modernity of the city. Now, you have seen 30 slides from over 250 slides that we presented to an audience of over 300 people in the campus center that summer. And each of my students felt deeply invested because they wrote the commentary on the slides themselves, not me. Crowdsourcing at its best, I thought. Recently, I got involved in another Beethoven research project, transcribing the handwritten catalog of some music compositions. In 1806, wealthy Archduke Rudolph of Austria, the only composition student of Beethoven, acquired over 18,000 musical scores for his personal library and for the use of the deaf Beethoven while they studied together for 14 years. He carefully handwrote each title, publisher, and publisher's plate number of the compositions with ink and pen into 2 volumes. After his passing, the Archduke left that catalog and all the musical scores to the Musikverein in Vienna, forming the basis of their original collection. Unfortunately, tens of thousands of other compositions by Brahms and Mahler and other composers were later donated, and it made it very difficult to do research with this collection of classical music. So I asked to transcribe the original handwritten catalog into digital format so as to make things more accessible for musical researchers. The head of the archive sent me a letter listing about a dozen different reasons why I shouldn't attempt to transcribe this catalog. At the end of the list, he said, "We kindly recommend that you not try to transcribe this catalog," and concluded by saying, "In fact, we forbid you to transcribe it." 2 years later, he lost his job, and a new head of the library came in. And in the meantime, Dr. Teresa Riley at UAFS had encouraged faculty in an email to explore digital humanities projects. Well, taking her advice to heart, I approached the new head of the archive who said, "Well, yes, go ahead and try." I honestly suspect he doubted I would ever be able to finish it, but he was willing to give me a chance. And here is what the books look like. This is the set, written by 4 different people in 4 different handwritings, in 4 different languages. When they run out of space to enter items, the scribes jump around from one column to another unpredictably, and you can see the arrows on this page that show how the information crosses from one column to another. Sometimes they send you to another page completely, so I had to renumber the entire catalog of 2,400 composers before translating it. And here's a view of my office in room 212 of Breedlove, where I completed the project. And here's a screenshot of the document during conversion. Over 75 women composers surfaced during transcription, and one in particular, Anna Amalia, the Duchess of Sachsen-Weimar, gained great notoriety in her time. A wealthy and talented musician, she financed a large library of her family materials in Weimar. But most of her works were thought to be lost because of the enormous fire that occurred in 2004. Well, my UAFS music history students located lost scores of 6 works by Duchess Anna Amalia of Sachsen-Weimar using the Archduke's catalog. And you can see them listed here in the original handwritten document. Nikki Wimmeris and James Vance presented our results to the Midwest chapter of the American Musicological Society a few years ago, 2020. UAFS Humanities students helped by double-checking all the call numbers in the Archduke's catalog that I had typed in there. I sent those who were interested a sheet of 25 items, each worth 25 points, and they were to double-check each of the entries with a matching call number. I was very happy with the way things were proceeding. An announcement of our work on the database appeared in the American Beethoven Society newsletter this year, and I was approaching completion of the transcription. But one day last spring, I stopped everything because I asked AI about the value of this crowdsourcing work. And surprisingly, AI said it could have done all of these projects without any students. I was stunned. For 20 years, Each of these projects made perfect sense in its time. In 2001, students helped me locate sources on microfilm because no one else would. In 2009, they interpreted my photographs because human commentary was irreplaceable and I couldn't do both jobs. And even 4 years ago, it seemed natural for my students to verify data that only humans could check. And then suddenly, AI told me it could do all that work faster, cheaper, and often just as accurately. It was like discovering that the very assignment that once built a research community was now automated. That realization was very unsettling to me. Now, allow me to stop at this point and ask those of you who are present here, if crowdsourcing once meant gathering people together to solve problems, what does it mean when machines can now join or even replace the crowd itself? Are we witnessing the end of human crowdsourcing as a form of research? Or can we see the beginning of a new partnership between people and machines? And I'm interested to know your reactions. Is crowdsourcing?
This is the participation part of our evening. What do you think?
I was going to say, I think it depends on what you're doing. And because, for example, for AI can do a lot. I mean, I think of my own area, so especially as I think of, there's a hurricane churning out across the Caribbean right now. And yes, AI can do a lot with satellite imagery that to help identify damage and that, but at the same time, it's actually on the ground humans and ground truthing that have to interpret what that is. Mm-hmm. And so it can be used very much to bring everybody right, to help focus areas, but at the same time, we have to actually be on the ground reporting. The AI is not going, there are a lot of things out there, but I would hope that there would still be that collaboration. There are always going to be new ways and new things that humans.
We hope.
We are an incredibly adaptive species.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that, AI can have all the answers, but humans at the end of the day are the ones going through these real life scenarios. So we can ask them what's the math of this or the science of this, but in reality, we're the ones going through it. We have the emotion and the thoughts and the feelings.
I think it breaks the connection. Because if you're talking to something that doesn't actually know you and trying to search for something in automation, it breaks the connection of people. When you're crowdsourcing, you're getting together with multiple people and hearing everybody else's points of views on things. You're losing that. You're getting the right answer, not a collective answer.
Mm-hmm. She mentions the word vision, that human beings have vision, and that's something that can drive. Would you like to hear what AI said about this? I was very worried about it, and I asked AI about crowdsourcing. Crowdsourcing isn't dead, it's maturing. The first projects were exciting because students could see their fingerprints on the outcome, a restored building, a finished travel log. The last project, verifying call numbers, may seem dull by comparison, yet it represents something enduring: care, precision, and faith in the permanence of knowledge. Even when the task feels mechanical, students are preserving accuracy for future scholars who may never know their names. That quiet service, done thoughtfully before machines could do it, is still a valid and noble form of learning. It reminds us that education is not only about excitement, but about stewardship, doing careful work that keeps culture alive. Education's highest calling is not speed or spectacle, but care, the steady human work that keeps culture, knowledge, and memory alive. Quite a remarkable thing, don't you think? Well, that's my presentation for this evening. I hope you enjoyed it. And we have to move on to the next person. Thank you for being here.
Does anybody else have any other questions?
What's next?
What's next for what or who?
Crowdsourcing for you.
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, I need to complete my project. I'm going to be doing, there's a companion volume that goes with this set. You can't understand the set of books unless you understand the companion volume that is a key to the set of books, so I have to translate that. And I'm working on that right now. And then the whole thing will be brought together. It's Beethoven's, the anniversary of his death is coming up in a few years, so I plan to present at the American Beethoven Society the whole kit and caboodle. I've already let them know about it a couple of years ago, but it's going to be, you know, a project to be presented formally, I think, and to let everybody know that they now have access, complete access to that archive that they never had before.
So can I ask, so how do they access the archive? How do they access your archive?
Well, thanks to UAFS, we have it online here, and I have the, if somebody wants the hyperlink transfer protocol address, I can give it to you. But it's been online for the past maybe 6 months. And I'm still revising it, but you know, every now and then you can see the date changes, you know, as I make some corrections and things. So it's available to anybody in the world right now. And I recently came back from Seoul, Korea to let the Digital Library for Musicology people know that it's available, and I talked to a number of people. They were mainly from Europe, but we need to find out about it here in the United States as well.
That's a service our library offers, which is
Yes.
very, very neat.
It's Omika, it's through Omika. Well, thank you very much.
This video was collected by Dr. Dan Maher and Dr. Matt McCoy and edited by Riley Beaker, Ray Gossick Ambassador Intern.
This video is a production of the Sound Collection Lab, located in the History, Social Sciences, Philosophy Department, originating from the University of Arkansas at Fort Smith. Programming in the History, Social Sciences, Philosophy Department's Sound Collection Lab is made possible in part by funding contributed for the Porter Legacy Initiative.